Welcome back to KCF Academy. I'm Vellari, and this is the second tutorial for Star Trek Online. Perhaps a little bit more boring episode, because we will be going over the game's settings and the user interface. Important nonetheless. So, let's start with the general settings, which you can also find, I think, this one here, game menu, or press ESC. Get into the settings, and we'll go to the options menu, which is the very basic settings. Start the first menu here. Mostly all of these settings, the default settings, are quite good, and you generally don't have to adjust a whole lot. But it's mostly stuff of relating to your screen size, graphic settings, and your personal preference, how you like things. Like for instance, direct or shield effects, meaning it will show on screen the effect on which direction it's coming from. Which is a little bit weird that it's in the basic setting, it's not in the graphic settings. I think the default is on. Compact user interface, it sort of presses these windows next to each other, so that there's no gap here, so it will automatically get over there. This again depends on your screen size, whether you want to use that. Move equipment time is ready set, maybe. Personal preference, I'm not going over absolutely everything here, it will take too long. Difficulty setting, by default it's normal, but when you're sort of more familiar with the game, I recommend setting it to advanced. And this means for the regular content, missions and episodes and I think patrols, things like that. For the operations, then you select the level when you queue up for operation what you want. So this has no effect on those. The usual stuff here. Auto loot, if it's not on, maybe put that on. Mission auto hell, if you're one of those people that likes to skip a lot of missions, then you may want to sort of tick this to on, which disables the auto hell. Otherwise you'll get hailed all the time for the next mission that you're going to skip anyway. So maybe for people that don't run episodes all that much, you may want to take that. These are sort of the visual style of things. Large, maybe if you have a really huge screen, 4K, and the color palette. This will also change depending on your character, so by default it will be whatever faction you are, but if you want to change it to something else, regardless, you can do it from here. So it changes the color palette to whatever you prefer. Where the LED UI, well, it's just a little thingy here when it's on. Interface scale. This again, if you have either a really small resolution or really high resolution, you can change the scale here. So let's put it to 1.5 for example. So make everything, well, too big for me, but I think 1.25 might be a little bit more. So yeah, depending on your screen size, you may either want to scale it down or scale it up. I'm running the game at 1440p, so usual 0100. Why doesn't it apply that? Okay, there we go. So depending on your screen size, this might be the thing you want to adjust. Next up is controller. If you want to use it, I don't see why you want to, but it's there. Audio, set your personal preference. I tend to have these fairly low, because they're quite loud even at 30%. And whatever your output device is, even if it's your headset or your actual speakers, these probably leave these on, but if you have sort of crackling things and things like that, you may want to check whether that has an effect. Media player, if you would like to play your own music on the background, you can pick from here. Voice chat, and this is the in-game voice chat, and I highly recommend that you disable this if it's not disabled by default, because if you have it on and you sort of map move, it will automatically put you in sort of voice chat rooms here. As if I enable it quickly here. So there you go. It automatically, well, it went to fleet channel here, but it could be a zone, team, whatever, so not good. So because it automatically puts you there. and it's pretty janky anyway, so use Discord or TeamSpeak or whatever instead of this. Disable it, please. Display settings, whatever card you might have here, usually don't have to touch this. And display mode, this is a personal preference as well. I have it windowed maximize because I have 2 screens, and it's easier to sort of switch to the other screen if it's sort of windowed and not full screen. But when it's not full screen, these are sort of locked, whatever your desktop is. So if you want to change these something else out of your default, then you have to run it full screen. Usually not an issue. I find that brightness also doesn't seem to work with windowed, so this doesn't do anything for me. Generally I would prefer it to be a little bit lower than the 100% where it is at the moment, but it doesn't change it when it's windowed. VSync, typically you would want this on, but that's a preference thing. Aspect ratio should be automatic. I don't see why you would need to change. Maybe for if you have this 16 by 10 monitor, you might need to change it, but usually this will take care of it anyway. Anti-aliasing, whatever you can afford hardware-wise. Brightness calibration is sort of a well, I can show it, I guess. It just shows you this barely visible, slightly visible. You have a sort of a general idea what the game is meant to be like. Graphics, it's usually these, you don't have to touch these unless you have a lower end machine, then you might want to disable some of this stuff. But generally this will be enough. This is, leave it where it sort of automatically detects you to be. On the advanced graphics size, generally I think these should be left to default, except maybe the bottom one. If you want to limit frame rate, well, in my case, I'm not sure if you can see it here, I'm running a 165 Hz monitor, so if I actually want to hit that, I have to take the limiter off. But if you are sort of running into issues with too hot GPUs or things like that, then you might want to limit this down. Also, it might help with lag if you're trying to ask the game to sort of render more frames that you reliably can do, which can cause lag, so you can drop it down if you need to. These generally don't need to be changed. Software cursor sometimes if you have a funky mouse cursor. Bloom, if you think your game is sort of overly glowy, then you can reduce this. Depends on what graphic card you have. Text to detail, generally leave it at 100%. Cranking this higher doesn't really do anything other than require more horsepower. So I think these are rather legacy settings anyway. Controls. I don't think I have changed anything here ever. But there are things you might want to, mostly for the targeting, what's your preference, let's say that. So you can mess with these and see how you want the sort of tab targeting to work. So there's a few settings here for that. Mouse look sensitivity, maybe, if you have issues with that, you can adjust those as you like. Other than that, I don't think I've ever changed any of these settings. And this obviously the same for ground side, so how it works on the ground side. So the defaults are a little bit different for the ground than they are on the space side. But this is highly subjective how you like it. So if you think something is wrong or should be different, might be a way to change it here. Same thing goes to keybinds. I don't think I've changed anything, but this is also a personal preference thing. If you're accustomed to a certain type of key layout, pretty much everything can be changed if you want to. Again, space and round side have slightly different options. Head-up display options, I think these I've maybe changed some of these to off. This is mostly for if you think you're getting sort of information overload, too many floaters and too many numbers flying around the screen. You can toggle some of these off and how these are shown. If you think, particularly if you have running a smaller resolution, then you might find that there's too much text on the screen, so you come here and disable these things. And general chat settings. I think these are by default off, but I put them on so you can see what time and who said something. So it's a little bit easier to keep track of things. Profanity filter, that's totally up to personal choice, how you like it. I have it off, but generally feels like, other than maybe the major hubs, it's fairly clean. Might be a dumb discussion, but generally not dirty, so to speak. Font scales, things like that. If you think your text looks funky, you need to change those. That's for the general settings. The general user interface layout is highly customizable. I think this, if you go into ESC and rearrange HUD, everything can be moved around if you want to. I think these three are by default sort of on top of each other, like this, so at least those you will know to move so they're not covering each other. Other than that, you can pretty much do whatever you like. This is fairly standard. I haven't moved things around a lot, maybe these two. And I've changed this sort of general notification slightly to the left there, so it doesn't sort of pop mid-screen immediately. This is a little bit rarer notification anyway, it doesn't really happen all that often. So pretty much everything can be changed. Minimap buttons here. At the top you see sort of what instance you're in and where. So if you click that, or here actually, well that was so here, so you can change the instance. Sometimes you need to, if you're trying to find friends, or on some mission maps you want to find one that has the fewest people or something like that, then you can go around and change to another instance here. Or you can open the map and it's the same thing here. Next one is transform menu, which is also button T. This one is scan area. Well, that's not possible in Sector Spirits, but it's sort of your radar, so to speak. And mission journal, which is a J button as well. Your character status, which is U key, opens both your sheet and inventory. And the next button just opens the inventory, which is button I. I generally use the quick buttons anyway, not often here. Mail, friends menu, and settings menu, which is the S key, and help and support, where you can sort of general help things, bug issues, something like that. Bottom row is the store, the daily theme store. Not sure why that menu still exists. I think there was a long time ago there was something else here, but I forget what it was. But since there's only one thing existing, I think it should open directly to this, but whatever. Next one is your duty officer and R&D and admiralty thingies. The operations menu is the next one. And fleet menu is the next one there. Check out what's going on with the fleet. And the drop-down menu, which sometimes people don't notice here, this little arrow here. Daily team exchange. PvP TFOs. If you're into that, I think you can find it here as well. Yes, it's this tab here. Yeah, uninver person. This is easy to just click here. Starship Bridge and Shuttle Bridge. There's not a whole lot of a lot of need to go. I think we can ever build a shuttle bridge. Nothing there. There are some uses for Starship Bridge, and there's a couple of missions where you actually need to go there. Very rarely used. Notification settings. There's one thing here. Are these fly-ins here? So this one definitely disable this one, because whenever there's, well, this one would have been a gameplay announce here. That would have popped up mid-screen, and there's a lot of these, so there's constantly coming on screen if you don't disable the fly. Admin announcements are a little bit more rare. It's usually if you're online when there's a patch coming or anything like that, then there will be an announcement that the game will shut down in 30 minutes or things like that. Generally you may want to disable these fly-in things to keep your screen clear of clutter, but maybe keep the chat thing on, so at least you know what's going on. What else is there? Music player, if you have the external player enabled here in the audio. And it's... So that's it for the menus. But then there's the actual user interface. So as you recall, these chat windows you can move around even without going to the rearrange thing. Other than that, you'd have to go to here, these object things around the chat screens you can move without going here. But the actual sort of user interface bits. I think there's 3 different modes for the power setup. I like the bars, but there's a few other ways you can be shown. I like the bars. Personal preference. And also this quick tray here, you can set it up. The top button opens the sort of what you can have here. This obviously depends on your character, consoles, and what have you. Do remember to lock it, because sometimes when you're sort of in the heat of the moment, you can sort of move these around, or you can delete them by accident. So lock it. And that other button sets up how many trays you have visible here. Generally, well, you don't need a whole lot. I generally leave it to 4, but you could have a lot of these if you want to. But as you can see, this is a little silly. So I think I find it easier to just add more of these. So, or if you have a lower resolution screen, you can just sort of only have one, like so. But you obviously need more, so you can go to the rearrange thing and add more of these. You can put them sort of where you like. So you'd have one here, one there. So that's the thing. So if you have limited space, like that, 4. Chat windows, by default there's only one, but if you have a large screen like myself, I have another one, and mine is generally dedicated to fleet, freight stuff, and sort of the channels I'm actually following, and the other one is general stuff that's sort of there for just information purposes, and so chats and things like that. And chat settings, other than these general chat settings here, it's a little bit hidden here, so there's a button here, and obviously another window here as well. And there's chat settings here, where you actually set up the tabs. So you can see these tabs here are these tabs here. So in this tab I want these channels visible. Very, very subjective. Many ways you can do this. But I've sort of arranged them like this. So they're not everything is single screen, otherwise it would be just clutter and you can't find anything. So how we used before. And the other one here, this is my fleet tab. So sort of things I actually want to follow. And not just local set and show set, things like that. The other button is the channels, which is the channels you're joined to. And obviously, if you know the name of the channel, you can add it here. And some of these, particularly the DPS ones, you get invites automatically when you reach a certain tier. I think there are trade channels and things like that. For example, yeah, there's a channel called Trade, but you find what you need and stick to it. Astrometrics here, it's a visual thing like this. I prefer it off. What else is there? Try and figure it out myself. Chat settings. Well, that's all the same button as this one. It seems. Change your character, obviously puts you back to the selection screen. Log out will put you a little bit further down than that, and exit will outright exit you. I think that's it for the settings. That's a quick overview, but at least you know what's where and how you can adjust the screen to your preference. Hopefully this was helpful, and the next episode will probably be a little bit more interesting, so to speak. Probably some fleet facility stuff, or maybe possibly the hub worlds, ESD, DS9. Not sure which one I'll do first. But until that time, I have been Exo Valerie. Bye bye.